Right, so today we're going to go on a little deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going deep into the mind of Ethel Cain.
Oh, yeah. I love Ethel Cain.
Yeah, her music is
Yeah.
really interesting, and I think she's got some really important things to say about, like corporate greed and capitalism and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think she's really tapping into something that a lot of people are feeling, and I think she does it in a really powerful way through her music.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we want to unpack today. Like, how can music be a tool for, like activism or, for actually, like, changing things? So, yeah, I mean, have you ever thought about what a musician's take on, like, tackling corporate greed might look like?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because I think we usually think about, like activists or politicians or, academics talking about that kind of stuff. But I think musicians have such a unique perspective on it because they can reach people in a different way, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, think about it. You hear corporate greed and you're like, yeah, whatever. But then you think about, like, what that actually means for, like, you and me in our everyday lives, right? Like, just going to the grocery store and seeing the prices going up or, feeling like your paycheck just doesn't cover as much as it used to.
Totally. Like, when was the last time you got a raise that actually kept up with the cost of living? You know what I mean?
It's rough out there.
It is. And I think that's what makes Ethel Cain's music so relatable. She's not just talking about abstract concepts. She's talking about the stuff that we're all dealing with on a daily basis.
Exactly. And, thinking about corporate greed, I mean, there's some pretty wild examples, like throughout history, like those CEOs getting those massive bonuses back in 2008 when, like, everyone else was losing their homes and their jobs.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy, like those bailouts and everything.
Like, how do these people sleep at night,
I know. It's like they're living in a completely different world.
Yeah, it highlights how broken the system is, right?
Totally. And I think that's what Ethel Cain is getting at in her music. She's trying to expose the flaws in the system where the people at the top can just get away with anything.
And it's not just about calling out individual people, right? It's about the system itself. Like, how can we change the rules of the game so that this kind of stuff doesn't keep happening?
Exactly. Like, we need to look at the root causes,
Absolutely. So let's actually dive into some of Ethel Cain's lyrics because I think there's some really powerful lines that speak directly to this.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so there's this one line in American Teenager that I think is really striking. She says, "God bless America, and all the money we make, exploitation fuels this nation."
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get my take.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really powerful line.
Right, it's like so raw and honest, and it just kind of cuts right to the heart of this issue.
Totally. And what I love about that line is how she connects her own personal struggle to this bigger system, Like, she's not just complaining. She's saying, hey, this is how the system works, and I'm just trying to survive in it,
Yeah, it's like acknowledging that your experience is connected to this bigger web of corporate power.
Exactly. And that's what I think makes her music so powerful. It's not just about pointing fingers. It's about understanding the complexities of the system and how we're all implicated in it in some way.
Yeah, and it's about, like, finding ways to resist that system, right?
Right.
I mean, she even offers some pretty radical solutions in her music. Like, she's not afraid to talk about, like, dismantling corporate power structures and putting people's needs before profits.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like in Ptolemaea, when she talks about eating the rich, like, that's a pretty intense image.
It's dark.
Yeah.
It's symbolic, but it gets you thinking, right? Like, how extreme does this problem have to get before we're willing to do something drastic?
Yeah, and that's where the real conversation starts, Are these radical solutions actually practical, or are they just, like symbolic gestures?
Yeah, I mean, some economists would argue that, drastically redistributing wealth could lead to, like, economic instability or disincentivize innovation and stuff.
Yeah, they've got some valid points there.
Right, but at the same time, like, isn't that the debate we need to be having?
For sure.
Like, think about the idea of a universal basic income, like giving everyone a set amount of money to cover their basic needs.
It sounds kind of radical, right?
Yeah, it does. But in a world where automation is replacing jobs left and right,
yeah,
maybe it's not so crazy.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I think Ethel Cain is really challenging us to rethink the fundamentals of our economic system.
Exactly. Like, what if corporations were structured more like cooperatives, where workers have a say in how profits are used?
That would be a huge shift.
It would. But maybe that's what we need,
Maybe.
And, Ethel Cain isn't the only voice in this fight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's tapping into a long history of activism and scholarship.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got groups like the Economic Policy Institute fighting for living wages and stronger worker protections.
Yeah, and then you've got folks pushing for wealth taxes on the ultra-rich.
Right. It's like there are all these different approaches to tackling this issue.
And I think it's important to remember the power of art itself, you know?
Yeah.
Like, think about musicians like Nina Simone or Public Enemy.
Oh, yeah.
They used their platforms to expose injustice and ignite social movements.
They were fearless.
And I think Ethel Cain is part of that legacy. You know, she's using her music to spark a dialogue about the things that we often shy away from.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting about her music. It's not just entertainment. It's like a call to action.
Totally. And I think she's really making people think, you know, like she's holding up a mirror to society, and the reflection isn't always pretty, but by confronting these uncomfortable truths, she's pushing us to imagine a better future.
It's like she's giving us the tools to start having these difficult conversations and to start demanding change.
Exactly. And I think that's a really powerful thing. You know, I'll leave you with this. If a musician can spark these crucial conversations, what role can you play in pushing for a more just and equitable world?
Think about it.
Yeah. What can you do?
All right, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Bye.